Today on the Shrewd Dudes podcast, Russia is back at it again. They're starting a little light show, but this is a deadly light show. We don't want to see that. Speaking of fireworks, the Durham report has dropped in the States, and it is downright catastrophic. It's devastating to our case, like liar would say. We're gonna talk about the Durham report and how completely and totally exonerates Trump. And then we're going to go into some culture war news. Daniel Penny's got some good news. Megyn Kelly is starting a little cat fight, which is always fun. And of course, we have to talk about Miller, which has decided to jump in to the beer wars. What are we thinking? And finally, let's talk about some Canada news because there's some good and bad news going on here, but we're going to have to cover all that in detail. All that and so much more on today's episode of the Shrewd Dudes podcast.
Alrighty, welcome to another Tuesday News Day.
You can tell I've done this many times, considering how I'm just flowing through it now.
Yes, I guess.
Well, do you remember the beginning, when we first?
Oh, we were so awkward.
We were so awkward in our and I'd be getting the words wrong, and I'd be and sometimes I used to cover so much in my intro.
Oh, we both used to.
Yeah,
the intro would last 2 minutes.
I'd read every single story topic and all that. Got a little too much.
Yeah, we basically become covering the news of the day in 15 minutes or less.
Yeah, basically with no music.
We're not Morning Wire.
That is true. They do.
Anyways,
they do it pretty well.
So we are back from the weekend. Right. I do not know what's going on with Restream right now, and I try to turn off streaming to Twitch, but it still streams to Twitch.
Called it. Totally called it.
Yep. I told Danny, I was like, I'm deliberately pressing the button. I am turning it off, and it still does it. So,
Steven, do you know the definition of insanity?
Trying the same thing over and over and over for a different result. Yep.
Just letting you know.
I know.
But anyways, I mean,
just will not. It mandates that I must stream to Twitch. I guess
you are required to stream.
Destined to stream to Twitch.
Streaming is happening. So
streaming is happening.
Well, okay,
get on board.
Let's cover. Yeah, let's get on board. Okay, let's cover what we did. So this weekend, I basically went to the Grand Canyon of Alberta, which is Horseshoe Canyon, and that was really fun. Horseshoe Canyon is a really, really fun place to go on a little mini hike of the Badlands, and lots of fun. Yeah, that was good times. And then also, I have officially begun my transition to the other house. I have gotten a new house, and I'm starting to move in because I already got access to it. So pretty soon, this background and this whole everything is going to be
Wi-Fi.
gone. Well, probably get better Wi-Fi would be good. So
yes,
thankfully, no more problems with that. But you, Steven, how was your weekend?
Well, Saturday, Friday normally my in-laws take the kids, but they were sick this weekend, so we took them.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, not much happened. It was pretty normal, nothing out of the ordinary.
And then Sunday came the showdown. Bum, bum, bum.
Showdown.
Showdown.
No, Danny and I have both moved on from what was our former church.
That's a good way to put it. Moved on.
There were a few conflicts and things which we didn't go along with and problems. In how they dealt with circumstances. Let's keep things reasonable. There were some minor issues.
Minor inconveniences, I'd say.
Well, minor inconveniences, but also minor issues of...
Couple tiny heretical statements.
Yeah, just a few.
Just a tad. I couldn't believe some of the stuff you told me. I was like, what? Yeah. I was like, what? Double takes, all the time. I was like, what? Who would say that?
It was kind of funny because everything up until for this past time that we've been there, everything up until then has been Pretty solid. Like, I haven't had any scriptural issues. And then this past weekend, I'm just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Where are you going?
It's like you let the cat out of the bag, and you realized it wasn't a cat; it was a freaking cougar.
It was a little bit, yeah. Anyways,
a little bit like that. So
that's that.
Me and Steven are shopping for new churches.
Still a civil, yes, still a civil conversation.
Throw some suggestions if you like. Have.
But I was forced to defend Danny's honor.
Well, there are a few who can.
Yes, sometimes it is rather difficult.
That's not what I meant, but sure, let's go with it.
Yeah, so things were all right, and then got my wife a new phone, so
He treats her well.
Nifty. And then I was stuck inside pretty much for a good chunk of the day. Because of the wildfires.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah, it was a cool story. Basically, we just told stories and read like standard operating procedure manuals for how to operate weed whackers.
You have way too much fun at that job. It is not a job. It is a social club.
It is practically a social club.
But let's bring it in, man. Let's bring it into the stories this week. So first one is Vladimir Putin is back at it again.
That's not anything new.
That escalated quickly, Stephen.
Reuters. So Kiev says it shoots down volley of Russian hypersonic missiles.
So you could do that.
Russia dismisses Ukraine's claim. Ukraine girding for big counteroffensive against invasion. Europe meets on ways to hold Russia to account for war. Ukraine said on Tuesday it shut down 6 Russian Kinzhal missiles in a single night, thwarting a weapon Moscow is touted as a next-generation hypersonic missile that was all but unstoppable. When asked about the Ukrainian claim, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu dismissed it, and RIA news agency reported the number of claimed Ukrainian missiles intercepts in general is 3 times greater than the number we launch. RIA quoted Shoigu as saying, as they get the type of missiles wrong all the time, this is why they don't hit them. He said without elaborating, this is the first time Ukraine claimed they have struck an entire volley of multiple Kinzhal missiles, and if confirmed, it would be a demonstration of the effectiveness of their newly deployed Western air defenses. So
here's some facts about the Kinzhal missile, the hypersonic missile. It has a reported range of 1,500 to 2,000 kilometer. That's how far it can fly. While carrying a payload of 480 kilograms, it may reach speeds of up to Mach 10, which is 12,000 kilometers per hour. The Kinzhal is one of 6 next-generation weapons unveiled by President Putin in a speech. He said these weapons could penetrate both existing and any future missile defense systems. So, I mean, they're hyping them up as like undefend, like basically you can't stop them. And he said that Putin said in December 2021 that Russia was the global leader in hypersonic missiles, and by the time other countries caught up, it was likely to have developed technology to counteract these new weapons. So the claim is basically that these missiles cannot be basically shot down or intercepted. That's the claim, but whether or not that claim proves to be accurate is not a whole lot of things. So, yeah, some facts about the Kinzhal missile, the hypersonic missiles.
Alrighty.
So we'll keep an eye on Russia on the whole Russian conflict because there's 2 things that we're hearing. One, we're hearing that Russia's supposedly going to escalate a little bit, and that means like this kind of stuff where they're going to like bomb the crap out of like major Ukrainian cities. And 2, that Ukraine is suggesting or threatening that they're going to do an actual invasion of Russian mainland, which will be interesting to see if they can actually pull that off. Because
y'all gonna get wiped out.
I mean, Napoleon, he attacked Russia, didn't do so well. Hitler tried, didn't do so well. I'm not sure if Zelensky has some magic rabbit up his hat.
Yeah,
we'll see, but just keep an eye on those things. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the only exciting thing that's happened recently for Russia, but yeah, it's still happening. But
it's still happening.
Speaking of natural disasters or national disasters, tell us about San Francisco, Stephen.
Yeah, what the F happened to San Francisco?
Yeah, what the heck happened to this place?
So what the F happened to this place? Dave Chappelle slams San Fran and comedy set. There's a surprise show in San Francisco Masonic Auditorium On Thursday night, comedian Dave Chappelle exclaimed, "What the F happened to this place?" referencing the homelessness crisis in the Golden City. He referred to the city as the second home during the set, and then went to recount an experience that he had a few nights earlier during his trip to the city. Mm-hmm. The Closer star told the crowd he was eating at an Indian restaurant in the city's Tenderloin district and said a homeless person defecated in front of the eatery as Chappelle was walking in.
Can you imagine that? Like walking into a restaurant on the street, and then suddenly I mean, it's one thing to see somebody doing drugs or maybe like I don't know, like lounging on the street or something like that, but somebody literally pooping.
Yep. In
the street right in front of you. It's like that's a whole other
completely insane.
That's a whole other level of like depravity.
Yeah. Well, I remember like because I haven't been to San Francisco since all of this happened, but I do remember not San Francisco being explicitly filthy, but I do remember going to Paris back in 2010, and I remember being horrified because there was just like it wouldn't be super common, but there was definitely like there's more feces on the street.
And garbage and like homeless encampments and dangerous people walking around. Yeah. I've heard people say that Paris, Paris in the 90s, early 2000s, gorgeous place, nothing but praise from most people. But
it's become Paris, a lot worse.
I think ever since so if you it's not hard to trace. You got the Arab Spring, which led to the Syrian civil war, which led to the massive, super crazy mass migration to Europe from like Syria and other places in Middle East, which led to completely and totally like failing policies from all these liberal governments in the West, including Paris, which led to a complete and total breakdown of major cities like Paris and that now have rampant crime, and the cities are no longer safe to walk in, even for regular people. So yeah, Paris, good job.
Keep in mind, I visited Paris before all that.
When was this?
2010.
Yeah, at the very beginning of that.
Very beginning.
Yeah.
Anyways, so continuing on. So the comedian said the city had devolved into a half-glee, half-zombie movie, and that out of the entire city had become the Tenderloin district, now an area known for its crime, homelessness, and drug problems.
It's true.
Y'all effing need a Batman.
It's true. I mean, it seems like every major American city is becoming Gotham. And by the way, I experienced something this week that I was like, it was like, dang, I hate the fact that we're actually getting here now. I went to Staples the other day, yesterday actually. I went to Staples. I just went to get some batteries, nothing special. And as I'm at the till paying for the batteries, I hear this commotion behind me. And I look behind me, I'm like, what's going on? And there's a guy walking out with like one of those little tote bags with little wheels on it, with like just filled with crap. And there's like a security guard, but she's like it's like this like 5'4" like Asian lady who like runs after him, and he's like, hey, wait, grabs the bag, tries to hold it back, but of course he just walks out like nonchalantly, and she's not strong enough to stop him. So he just kind of walks off with his stuff, and they're like, about to call the police. And I'm like, look at the guy at the till. I'm like, so I guess Calgary's becoming San Francisco, huh? And he's like, oh yeah, it's because there's like a safe injection site nearby, and there's like income inequality and all this, like he kind of goes into the spiel, and I'm like, so what you're saying is Calgary's becoming like San Francisco? He's like, I guess so. I'm like, good to know. All right, I'll have a good day. Just walk out. I'm like, dang. It literally is like I grew up in I've been in Calgary for like basically 23 years because I got here in 2000. I don't see that. I haven't seen that level of brazen theft in not even like in a bad part of the city. This is like by Chinook, and I was like, dang, like it's getting bad out there. So, anyways, like Dave Chappelle saying, this is coming here too, because let's face it, we have a city council that is darn woke, if I've ever seen a city council.
Oh yeah, super darn woke.
They're gonna drag us kicking and screaming into San Francisco territory. So yeah, it's gonna be great. So great.
Yep. So Canada's straight to hell. San Francisco's straight to hell.
Yeah.
But the whole of America, there is some hope. And this report is a tiny flicker of it.
Yeah, let's go. So this is the video of this is going to be a quick segment on the Durham report. So anybody who doesn't know, the Durham report is a comprehensive and very exhaustive report written by I think it was an FBI agent or the investigator, and he basically did a deep dive investigation into everything regarding the Russian collusion kind of narrative, and it is downright super damning for everyone who was involved. So before we go into that, I wanted to show you guys what essentially what they were all saying about the Russian collusion before this thing came out. This is from 2016. For a little context.
They were conspiring with Russians. They were conspiring with Russians. Not colluding. Let's just not use the word colluding. They were conspiring with the Russians. This is a conspiracy. So no collusion, okay, no collusion. A conspiracy, a criminal conspiracy possibly.
The bottom line allegation of this unproven dossier is that Russia didn't just attack our election. They did so with the knowledge of and support of the Trump campaign, that the Trump folks were in on it, that they knew what Russia was doing while they were doing it, and they continued meeting with Russians in knowledge of that activity during the time of the attack.
For over a year now, his catchphrase has been no collusion.
There was no collusion at all.
No collusion, no nothing. No collusion, no nothing.
No collusion.
No collusion.
No collusion. No collusion.
He uses it for every occasion. It's like his aloha. It means both hello and I'm guilty.
Whatever else this investigation adds up to, it is certainly not over. It certainly clears no one, least of all the president, and it certainly is no hoax.
Certainly it's no hoax. About that.
Durham report. FBI criticized by special counsel for Trump Russia inquiry. Long-awaited reporters strongly criticized the FBI's handling of its investigation into the alleged ties between Russia and the 2016 Trump campaign. 306-page report, special counsel John Durham and the agency's inquiry lacked analytical rigor. He concluded the FBI had not possessed evidence of collusion between Donald Trump's campaign and Russia before launching an inquiry. The FBI said to address these issues highlighted in the report. In the report, Mr. Durham, who was appointed by then Attorney General William Barr in 2019, accused the FBI of acting on raw, analyzed, and uncorroborated evidence.
That is very true.
Oh, hello, constant document. Welcome back. Among the investigative mistakes it made were repeated instances of confirmation bias in which it ignored information that undercut the initial premise of the investigation. It noted significant differences in the way the FBI had handled the Trump investigation when compared to other potentially sensitive inquiries, such as those involving his 2016 electoral rival Hillary Clinton. Durham noted that Mrs. Clinton and others had received defensive briefings from the FBI aimed at those who may be targets of nefarious activities by foreign powers. Mr. Trump had not. The DOJ and the FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law, report concluded. The statement the FBI had said it already implemented dozens of corrective actions had those reforms been in place in 2016. The missteps identified in the report could have been prevented, the statement added.
Yeah, so I can give it there's a couple of basic summaries, takeaways that we got from the report. So number one, the report basically concluded that they they launched this investigation based on no evidence. That was the one thing that I was surprised by when I heard about that. I was there was nothing, no evidence that actually no, totally on complete and total made up, completely fraudulent evidence. Not even evidence, just the conversations that people had in hotel room or hotel bars and things like that. Total rumors, total everything, just garbage, right? So first of all, no evidence that used to justice. Second, this entire Russia hoax was essentially a political hit job by the Hillary Clinton campaign. They basically masterminded it. They launched it. They provided the materials for it, and not only that, but they even briefed the president at the time, Barack Obama, about this whole thing, and he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you can go ahead and launch that. Okay, oh, it's all good. It's all good. Like they basically like like the Obama administration colluded with the Clinton campaign to basically make up a complete and total like fraudulent thing against like Donald Trump, accusing him of like Russian collusion. So this was an invented hoax by the people in power. Then on top of that, the two major FBI like agents that were like basically behind this whole thing, Brian McCabe and Strachan, both of them were fired for complete and total incompetence. Strachan himself was caught on an actual phone call or like a text like chain with his then mistress, and he was basically admitting that he had every intention and desire to completely and totally get rid of Trump by any means necessary. So these are like not like people who are making mistakes. This reeks of completely made up like political stuff. And then on top of that, almost all of the evidence, all of the up with was all made up. All of it. There was no credibility to any of the things, from the Steele dossier to the supposed witnesses and evidence that they had. All of it was based on complete and total fraudulent stuff. And at any point, anybody in the FBI could have actually like dug a little deeper, and this would have this would have evaporated instantly. But no, they wasted $6 million or more dollars in wasted investigations and a total witch hunt. And yeah, it got downright ridiculous. Like this is the most incredibly damaging hoax in America, like possibly at least in the last 100 years, because somebody compared it to Watergate. Watergate was basically Richard Nixon got some people, some agents of his choosing, to go to the Watergate hotel, try to dig up dirt on his opponents, and they got caught. They got caught doing it. That's the extent of Watergate. This was like an actual orchestrated plan by people who were like against their political opponents, like the Hillary campaign against the Donald Trump campaign. You had the FBI completely participating, and then you had the what was it? And then you had like the Obama administration participating, and you had people at very high levels all in on it. It's beyond. Like they try to like call it like like, oh, a couple of mistakes happened. This is beyond that. It's one of the most incredibly scandalous like orchestrated like hoaxes in modern political history. It basically proves that the DNC and most of the major most of the major parts of the DOJ, from like the FBI to DCI and all these, that they're basically corrupt and incredibly hopelessly corrupt. So it's crazy. It is crazy what's going on. Yeah, Nixon was spying on his political opponents. That's exactly what they were actually. They did worse. They did worse. They didn't just spy on them. They made up crap.
Yeah,
they invented.
They tried. They tried to because they talk about January 6th. Yeah. They're like, oh, January 6th was an attack on democracy. It was the worst attack America's ever seen. It's like, this is what happened, and what's been exposed in the Durham report makes January 6th, because January 6th, by all accounts, is a bunch of random people. Yes, it was a riot. Mm-hmm. And there were problems with what was going on. Mm-hmm. And there was some accounts of violence. Thankfully, there's only one demise. Still wrong. That person should be prosecuted. But that's beside the point for right now. But what happened and what's being revealed in this probe is that the FBI was deliberately working to not only help the Hillary Clinton campaign, but to actively harm the Trump campaign and to actively try and prop up the Democratic Party while hurting the Republicans, which is a travesty of justice. And then they tried to push these absolutely false claims. There were members of the FBI that were just like, I hate Trump, and so therefore we're going to go after him for all sorts of political malfeasance. And this has continued to this day. We're seeing this, of course, with the Mar-a-Lago raid. You see a massive difference between tons of FBI agents storm into Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago, and
true, yeah.
Biden has documents after document after document after document that are in a box next to his Corvette in his unlocked garage. There's no issue there, but there's an issue when Trump does it. This is called targeted enforcement, and it is one of the primary first signs of corruption in the justice system.
And a really corrupt system. Like it's like you can like people try to make the case that it's only a couple bad apples. It's like no. This is like top to bottom. Like this is like some of the highest level like members or directors of the FBI, all the way down to like regular like low level kind of FBI agents, and you're still seeing it today from like the FBI raiding like a pro-life man over something that's already been settled, to the DOJ going after parents at like school board meetings. Like it's weaponized. So and people say like, oh, like why don't you trust your institutions? It's like how can you really trust your institutions at all when they do this kind of nonsense and then pretend like it's not a big deal? Like this is like the most incredibly like high profile level of like full scale political like election interference I've ever seen. Like this in 2016, it didn't actually lead to Trump losing, but they were pretty much pulling out all the stops, demonstrating again the motto of the Democratic Party in the United States is by any means necessary.
Yep.
That means that if they could like sacrifice puppies on the street and stab them in the head and all that kind of stuff, and that would to them getting what they want, they would do it. And I mean, I'm obviously using a little hyperbole here, but all you have to do is look at what the Democrats pulled, the incredible like almost like unhinged witch hunt that they did with Brett Kavanaugh. That was like the most perfect example of how far the Democrats are willing to go to get what they want. And the one thing right now is that Trump can pretty much like now say he is the most heavily scrutinized president in like modern American history.
Yes.
And he has come out like ridiculously squeaky clean. I mean, it is incredible. Like,
dang it. I was just thinking about that. I did want to talk about one thing as one story that was covered on the Michael Knowles show, but it's unrelated to this.
Okay. Well,
so I'll try and find another place to put it in.
Okay. But do you want to go to the next story? The one,
yes.
Trump's response to this?
Of course.
Okay, let's do it.
So, from the Daily Mail, it's a great vindication. It feels good.
Donald Trump ever.
Yep. Donald Trump hails John Durham report slamming FBI for pursuing baseless Russian collusion theory in first TV shot since its publication, and blames sore loser Hillary for fueling false rumors. So, all these people are, I guess you could call it treason. You could call it a lot of different things, but this should never be allowed to happen in our country again.
It's true. It's true.
The former president went on to heap blame on his 2016 election opponent, Hillary Clinton, for the controversial FBI probe into his own campaign. This was really started by when she lost the election, said Trump. They called this a big, big surprise, and they didn't know what to say. And they said, let's blame it on Russia. Somehow, somebody came up with the idea, let's blame her loss on Russia.
Yeah, I mean, just for a little context here. Right now, everyone's trying to attack Trump for, for casting doubt on the 2020 election. Like the 2020 election, let's put it in
muffin
very
sale.
Simple. The muffin sale. That 2020 muffin sale, there's obviously a ton of things you could draw from that you could be like, okay, there's some serious shenanigans that went on there. The 2016 election was so it didn't have anywhere near. Actually, it didn't have any anomalies like the 2020 one had, and the Democrats basically like pounded on the same drum about collusion based on nothing. There was zero evidence. Zero. That was a hoax in the most perfect demonstration of what a hoax is. That was a manufactured hoax. Now it was colluded by the Democratic Party, by the media, and by pretty much every major institution in America. It was crazy. Like the incredible hypocrisy there. It's absolutely mind blowing.
Yep.
Like anybody who thinks like, oh, Trump is like casting doubt on elections. I'm like the 2016 one. If anything cast doubt on election is the 2016 election. Give me a break.
Yep.
So yeah, so like I'm glad that we knew a lot of this, but this is basically like hard, undeniable evidence.
Yep.
That you cannot defend the idea.
Well, this is I was thinking about this, and this is the best way to put it, and it's also a really good name for today's episode.
Got it.
I told you so. Thy name is Durham.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Yeah, because that's exactly how you describe the situation.
It's
like,
bad,
yeah,
man.
we told you. We totally told you. Come on.
Yeah, but just also realize that this is the pattern. Okay, they lie. They pretend like they pretend like they have all the facts and they have all this evidence and all this kind of stuff, and they make statements that this is so true. He's guilty. He's clearly guilty. And then like afterwards, they're like, "Oop, mea culpa, mea culpa."
Yep.
This is what they did with the jibby jabs. They claimed all sorts of crazy things, and then afterwards, it's like, "Oops, my bad."
Yeah.
And then they kept doing this. Mandates, masks, like everything that they kept like repeating like nonsense. Yeah. They kept doing it. Now, speaking of somebody else now Trump has now been exonerated by all the evidence. Now, there's somebody who's in the process of hoping that they get exonerated. And even Tim Pool actually came around and basically said like, okay, I'm going to basically help to contribute to its legal defense. But yeah, take us in there, Stephen.
So Daniel Penny Legal Defense Fund raises over $2 million. So the decorated Marine, who was indicted by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg last week for subduing violent schizophrenic child kidnapper.
Yeah, because he kidnapped a child. You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, he actually he tried to basically drag away I think a 7-year-old girl or something like that before somebody basically stopped him.
Wow.
Before he was able to. Yeah, this guy. I don't want to call people like names and all that, but this guy is a dangerous lunatic.
A dangerous psychopath.
Yes, he is. He is a troubled man with a lot of issues and a lot of things. But he is a dangerous
society. Yep.
Yeah. So before you start jumping on, he's a victim. If somebody comes like at you like wielding a knife or doing something dangerous, I'm like the whole victim narrative kind of goes. I'm not saying
kind of falls flat.
I'm not saying he did that, but I'm saying he has hurt people in the past.
Yes.
So he has a rep.
All right. So has raised over $2 million for his legal defense on GiveSendGo.
That's awesome.
And then these are a couple of tweets. Someone says he looks like dying Gaul. This is true both literally and metaphorically. They want you broke. They want you dead. They want your children raped and brainwashed, and they think it's funny. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This looks like the dying Gaul.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's interesting kind of like, commentaries though.
It is.
But yeah, like the idea with Daniel Penny is that here's a guy who, along with other people, other Good Samaritans on the subway, tried to basically subdue a guy who was basically threatening, like legitimately threatening people. He Jordan Neely had already broken the law. Like he was already uttering threats of violence against people. That itself is grounds for somebody to basically stand up and defend themselves. If somebody says, I'm going to kill you, and you have the right to defend yourself at that point. He doesn't have to throw a punch. Like he's already basically made a threat. So you have the right to defend yourself. The whole story is basically self-defense is now illegal in New York. And that's what they're trying to do. And that's why I'm hoping that this trial becomes another Kyle Rittenhouse kind of thing where basically, a good guy is actually, good guy is actually
the one troubling fact that I didn't realize this until Tim Pool mentioned it. I think it was today. Kyle Rittenhouse is facing civil suits in which he has a decent chance, unfortunately, of losing. And so he will probably be sued for some sort of other reimbursement.
Yeah.
And so he's still going to have to pay. even though he is, of course, the victim here.
Mm-hmm.
So the justice system at work, it's just so terribly problematic.
Yeah.
But it sometimes produces small victories.
Mm-hmm.
So from Newsweek, Kari Lake scores huge win as Arizona election case heads to court.
Nice.
Newsweek, failed Arizona. Well, no, she's Arizona gubernatorial. Yeah, it's Newsweek. Kari Lake has claimed a victory in her legal challenge against the racist results. Lake, who ran with Donald Trump's endorsement, lost Arizona latest gubernatorial race by 2 Democratic Katie Hobbs by more than 17,000 votes, but refused to concede. She filed a lawsuit against the election results, claiming the alleged irregularities in Maricopa stopped her from winning the state's most populous county. Though her legal challenge was repeatedly rejected in the state, first by a judge and then by the appeals court, she has appealed her case heard in court. In March, the Arizona Supreme Court threw out 6 of the 7 claims in her legal challenge, but kept the case alive by ordering a trial court to conduct an additional review of the county's procedures for verifying signatures on mail-in ballots.
By the way, really quick, like, you know, the way if you read that,
I know
that is editorial bias. What they're doing, they're trying to make it sound like she's just like,
she's been given
stubborn.
Yeah.
Oh, like she's lost so many of these things. It's like, oh, why won't you just give it up? They're basically relying on low information people to read that and be like, oh, like, you know, she's just being really stubborn. If you actually know the details of her case and the actual details of the entire, like, all the shenanigans that happened in Arizona, you'd be like, yeah, there's a reason why people are pissed about that election, because that was anything but a well run like thing. It had a ton of red flags, from the fact like that Katie Hobbs was herself the person in charge of running the elections, which is a huge red flag. And then you have a million anomalies that happened there. Yeah, you would have to be very intentionally blind, ignorant, or deliberately, like, you know, like not wanting to know the truth to not see the problems there. Anyways, go on.
Okay. I was just
doing things.
Yep. So, and then on Monday, the Superior Court Judge Peter A. Thompson approved 1 count in Lake's lawsuit regarding signature verification. Lake received the news triumphantly. She announced huge following Supreme Court ruling. Maricopa County Judge counts Kari Lake the opportunity to expose election fraud in court. We're going to court. Get ready. So this is, I'm intrigued by what is presented. The last time they went to court, unfortunately, like, they did prove that there was significant malfeasance with, like, the printer scanning issues and all those things. And, like, the things that they threw out her cases for were ridiculous. Like, one of the things that they brought up in this article, and they say here specifically, where was it? Here it is.
What are you looking for?
So Lake's attorneys claim the Maricopa County accepted thousands of ballots that had been previously rejected by workers for having mismatched signatures. It had been first been dismissed by a lower court that said that Lake had waited too long to raise the claim, but was revived by the state Supreme Court decision in March to ask the lower court to decide if there were any other reason to dismiss it. They dismissed it because she brought up this challenge after the election. And it's like, well, when was she supposed to bring it up? Before the election? How was she supposed to know that you guys were going to mess up signature verification processes before the election happened?
Yeah, that basically what it means is that Democrats and a lot of their allies in the court and the legal system are gaming the system.
Yes.
And gaming the media. So the first of all, they're gaming the system in order to, like, throw out these, like, claims, and then secondly, the media is lying to people, telling them that, like, you see, this is all fraudulent, all these, like, you know, fake lawsuits, like in the election and all that. It's basically like gaslighting to the most incredible levels. It's pretty incredible stuff. So yeah, it's the Arizona election is troubling for some very important facts, and they basically like all come down to one thing. 2020 was really problematic for a lot of reasons, and we've talked about them in ad nauseum before. 2022 was where like Arizona was the contested state that the Democrats really wanted to kind of like find a way to get Katie Hobbs in. There was a lot of shenanigans that were extremely similar to what happened in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, if they can do it again in 2022, then there's a lot of concerns that they're going to do it again in 2024. And the reason why we're concerned is because I hate to say it, but too many Democrats out there are willing to do all sorts of immoral, unethical, and completely full-on fraudulent things in order to win. Because the way that the way that the left operates, and a lot of like leftists, and including a lot of Democrats operate, is they don't care if they cheat, lie, steal, or like do anything immoral if it gets them what they want.
Yep.
So this is where you basically run into a rock and a hard place. Like, what do you do with that? You have to do something to clean it up. So we'll see. But good luck to Carrie Lake. I really like Carrie Lake. I thought she was one of the most incredible Republican politicians I've seen in the last year, and I hope that her political career is not ended here. I hope that she gets more opportunities in the future. But let's talk about another strong and badass like lady in conservative circles. Talk about
Megyn Kelly said privileged Charlize Theron setting stage for grooming of children.
Mm-hmm.
So Megyn Kelly once again took aim at Charlize, the Oscar-winning actress who played the former Fox News host in the 2019 film Bombshell, saying that she was showing her privilege by declaring that she would F anyone up who opposed drag queens performing for children. Kelly used her SiriusXM podcast on Monday to clap back at the criticism she received for a comment on Friday in which she invited Theron to come and F me up. Kelly was responding to Theron's declaration last week during a telethon to benefit drag queens. Quote, if you don't understand, Charlize and LGBTQ Nation and whoever came after me on the Friday comment, there actually is a problem. If you're not equally outraged about it, then you're part of the problem. You're setting the stage for further grooming and exploitation of children. She said that Theron's comments were disturbing because pedophiles target children from poor backgrounds. She's rich, she's famous, she's beautiful. I'm sure she has a staff that looks like Downton Abbey. Guess who the pedophiles go after first? The kids from broken homes, poor kids, the kids who have a parent who's addicted to drugs or alcohol, the kids who wind up in the system and are having community juvenile defense, the kids who don't have a rich or famous mother out there saying, slay queen, Kelly said. Yep. 100%. Charlize is
there a video there?
I don't know
up
how
there, a
long
little
it
more.
is. Yeah.
Well, just play a little bit of it, maybe.
To the far left wokesters who are important to her. So on the show on Friday, I pointed this out and said, accurately, that drag queen shows actually can be a potential problem, and was sure to point out that, look, you're a grown-up, you want to go into a bar and watch one over age 21 with a cocktail, that's up to you. I myself have done it. When I lived in Chicago 25 years ago, there was a place called the Baton Club. It was unbelievable, and we had a lot of fun there. Different story entirely from drag queen shows in front of young children, which is happening. So in the wake of those comments, you had some far lefties like LGBTQ Nation write up my comments on Friday and attack me for, quote, citing zero evidence that there are drag queen shows that are deeply disturbing and happening in front of children. Well, LGBTQ Nation, I actually showed such video on the show on Friday. If you had just paid attention to more than the 1-minute clip that you apparently watched, we did a 10-minute segment on it right now. It's got about 500,000 views on YouTube. Here's more, where you see inappropriate sexualized content being offered in front of children, okay, in front of kids. This website, among others on the left, claimed that these are false claims I made that have become distressingly common on the right. No.
Yeah. So I have one important thing. First of all, Megyn Kelly, I love that. I love that she's actually like, taking it direct to Charlize Theron, because this is what they do. They come out and they basically like say like, we're they basically accuse anybody on the right, anybody who's not in the cult, in the leftist cult, of like being the mean spirited, horrible, bad people and all that. And I love that Megyn Kelly actually took it upon herself to do that because, I mean, obviously right now in this culture, it's like if anybody other than a woman strikes back or pushes back on Charlize Theron, immediately they can say like, oh, you're sexist. So if Ben Shapiro responds to Charlize Theron, well, they're gonna be like, well, you're sexist. Well, thankfully, Megyn Kelly doesn't have to worry about that, and she did a fantastic job of calling her out. Now, really quick, are you familiar, Stephen, with the Mauden-Bailey fallacy and what it is?
Nope.
Okay, Mauden-Bailey fallacy. I said so. Mauden-Bailey, it's a rhetorical like technique where you take two things that have like a slight similarity, and you intentionally defend the more easily defensible one instead of like the one that's the real problem.
Yeah.
So the whole like what Charlize Theron is basically doing is she's using a Mauden-Bailey fallacy to defend like drag queens. Okay, so so instead of defending the more difficult to defend thing, which is that drag queens are performing highly inappropriate sexual performances before kids, she defends the one that's easier to defend, which is that drag queens shouldn't be demonized. Like, nobody's saying that drag queens should be demonized. We're saying that drag queens should not be performing sexually explicit dances in front of children. And Megyn Kelly basically showed you how to diffuse and how to disarm that approach, because she went right after it and said, nobody's saying that drag queen shows, at least in like the liberal side, nobody's saying that because drag queen shows are basically burlesque shows for the gay community, or like, and for most adults, it's like strippers. Okay, I personally don't like strippers. I don't agree, but like in the adult context, there's a difference. Children are not sexual beings, especially children under 12 years old. A child has no idea what sex is. Their bodies are not sexual because they haven't hit puberty yet. They don't have sexual feelings for others because they haven't hit puberty yet. You're trying to sexualize a child, and any child, and I mean, just there's countless stories of children who were abused early and it screwed them up for life. And so when drag queens and the people who are promoting these kind of drag queen shows, these sexualized, trying to put glitter in the carpet, as they say, what they're doing is they're trying to basically like corrupt children and sexualize them way too early so that they become sexual deviants, or they start to explore things that they don't understand. And you've basically screwed them up really early, and that's what they want. So Megyn Kelly shows exactly how to do this. Don't fall for the Mauden-Bailey fallacy, which is what Charlize Theron and a lot of the people like her do.
Yeah,
that's my little rant. Yeah. That's right.
Mississauga.
Hey, dang. Mississauga, bring it on, bro.
Another Canadian.
By the way, how bad is it in Mississauga? Is Mississauga getting super like crazy liberal? Like, I'm not sure if Mississauga is conservative or if they're
I have no idea.
Liberal city. I know that there's some of the what's it called? Is it Kitchener? Yeah, Kitchener, Ontario.
Okay,
I know Kitchener.
She says really it's crazy left.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, that does suck. Then again, we can't complain too much. We can't like say it's that bad there when we live in Calgary, and Calgary is just like, whoa.
Calgary is a city that is quickly becoming very highly liberal, and it's a city that historically has been super conservative, but we have been essentially infected and taken over by the most incredibly woke city council imaginable. Like, they do not represent the views of the majority of the city. It is crazy.
Yeah,
anyways,
but continuing on this kind of topic, the WHO pushes early childhood masturbation for toddlers, encourages questions about gender identity for kids age 4. Yeah, this is just more and more evidence of trying to push this identity and this ideology onto children. As reported by the Daily Mail, the guidance states that children under 4 should be encouraged to ask questions about sexuality. No, they should not. The 68-page report titled Standards for Sexuality Education in Europe also calls for supplying information to toddlers about enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, early childhood masturbation. A child should not be even considering such things. This is horrifyingly disgusting. The policy paper also states that kids between 4 and 6 should talk about sexual matters and consolidate their gender identity. No, I have a 4-year-old and I have a 6-year-old. You know what they talk about? My 4-year-old talks about Barbies and other dolls, and my 6-year-old won't shut up about Minecraft. These are things which are totally normal. And like, yes, my 6-year-old talks about Minecraft too much, and I wish he would try. Like, he plays outside a lot, and he does talk about his friends, so that's fine.
Yep.
But he doesn't talk about his gender identity. He doesn't talk about his sexuality, because these are things which you should not be teaching a child, because a child is not ready to learn these things because they are more advanced for their young minds. And of course, continuing on with something that we continually mention on this show, children cannot consent. You cannot encourage a child to pursue these things, because a child, especially if you were a parent or a role model for these children, they will go along with your brainwashing because they implicitly trust you. That's why when they talk about scripture, they talk about having the faith of a child. If you tell a child, oh, like, you like to play with a Barbie when you're a boy, well, then probably you're a girl and you need to go through all these things to change your life. And they'll be like, okay, daddy. Like, I tell my daughters things, and they're like, okay. Because they implicitly trust you.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'll even tell them ridiculous things. Like, I'll pull the whole Wobble and Grumman and be like, Becky, do you know that the moon can be made of cheese? And she's like, really? And I'd be like, no.
And like,
But
Steven,
that's what children are. They get perverted, and they get they get brainwashed into these types of ideologies.
Yeah.
And it destroys their lives.
Well, children. Okay, so I've encountered a lot of people in my life who've had all sorts of like addictions, from sexual addictions to like, you know, substance abuse addictions, to even like eating disorders and all that. One of the common threads is either they've been abused when they were like, you know, like way too young, or they got introduced to sexually explicit material way too young. I've met several men who basically their sexual addictions started when they were like, you know, definitely children, because they were exposed to like Playboys or to you know, like, I don't know, like pornographic video or movies or whatever, because this is something that they don't understand. They don't know what it is, and it totally throws them off. And there's a reason why we have ages of consent, because I remember like studying this, like in the 1800s, they didn't have ages of consent. And the reason why they make them into laws, because what was happening is that children were being recruited into like prostitution, into child labor, into all sorts of things that were like harmful to them. They're easy targets. They're the most vulnerable and easy to exploit targets ever. And that's why ages of consent basically make it so that, oh, I don't care, you know, how much they signed a contract or how much they said that they want to do this. You like, they're too young to basically be in prostitution at like 12 years old. That's why they have ages of consent in England. And now the problem is, and the real problem is, this is a WHO. Now, we talked about recently how the what was it, that the UN was basically calling and saying that you know, like, oh, children should be able to consent, and they basically didn't give an age. But there's a sickness going around our world right now, and I truly, it's tough to be a parent nowadays. Your kids are being hit from every direction, from social media to their teachers to their friends to everywhere else. They're being hit by everywhere. Their sexuality is like their God-given right, and that they basically should go out and have all the sex with as many people, however many people, never being told about the consequences or the potential fallout that could happen from that. And it's happening even younger. Yeah, there's a concerted effort right now from powerful institutions that we're supposed to trust that really are basically pushing hard for pedophilia. And it is absolutely, it's mind-blowing. You thought oh, this day will never come. No, it's here. WHO, UN, the United States of America, Canada, all of these major institutions are pushing for this stuff, and it's quite alarming. So yeah, definitely the goal for us, exposure. We want to make sure people know that this is coming, and we want to know people to know that that you have to be aware, because otherwise the wolves are at your door and they want your kids.
Yep.
So keep your eyes open.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. So talking about some more kind of issues in that regard, let's just briefly talk about this one story, and then we'll go into some other Twitter stories. So Aladdin star deactivated his Twitter account following backlash for his Little Mermaid prediction. Aladdin actor Mina Massoud appears to have deactivated his Twitter account after he made a Little Mermaid prediction that was ill-received. He's been under attack by Disney fans ever since Saturday, when he wrote, "Our film was unique in that audience went to watch it multiple times. It's the only way we reached $1 billion mark with our opening. My guess is The Little Mermaid doesn't cross the $1 billion mark, but will undoubtedly get a sequel." His comments appear to be in response to reports predicting The Little Mermaid will rake in at least $110 million over Memorial Day weekend. He's best known for starring in the live-action remake of Aladdin, and it earned more than $1 billion at the global box office. So, this is, of course, people are criticizing me like, oh my gosh, you're attacking The Little Mermaid. Who cares? Who cares if he's attacking The Little Mermaid? The Little Mermaid, by all accounts, is going to be exactly like what's happening right now.
Cleopatra. Did you see
Cleopatra, exactly. What was it? 1%?
It was the worst audience score ever.
Worst audience score ever, like, and has like one positive critic score.
Yeah, the comic book guy would be all over that. It's like worst audience score ever. Like it was incredible. I couldn't believe, like, I never heard of the audience score that low. This is gender swap Hollywood. And it only goes in one direction. The only people that are eligible to be gender swapped are white people. So like Peter Pan, when they what was it? Netflix? No, Disney Plus. Disney Plus did a Peter Pan remake, and the only person they gender swapped, or primarily gender swapped, was Peter Pan, of course, because he's a white guy. Like, he has to be, race swapped and all that. And then a lot of people are basically like Little Mermaid was so incredibly obvious that this was done on purpose, that they changed Little Mermaid. Now, since then, a lot of things about the Little Mermaid have come to light, and it's looking like this movie is pretty much prime to be a flop, because the songs are worse than the original. I've actually heard somebody was playing the audio from like the new version of like Under the Sea, and I was like, yeah, it definitely lacks the kind of flair that the old one had. I'm like, yeah, this was like a much more muted version. The colors are terrible. Like the humanist, are like basically the animals that they came up with, like from Sebastian to Flounder. Yep. They look awful.
They do.
And yeah, so like, this movie is basically setting itself up to be a complete flop.
Complete flop.
So again, they do this with a lot of movies and TV shows. They make terrible shows, and then they find some angle in order to. It's called fan baiting, which what they do is they make a terrible show, and then they find, how can we attack the fans as cover for our terrible like movie or show, and like they use the race angle, they use the sexism angle, they use the toxic fandom, like whatever it is, right? They did that with Obi-Wan Kenobi, with whatever that girl's name was, the Inquisitor, who was a terrible but they claimed that like all fans were mad at her. They did that with The Last Jedi. They did that with who knows how many movies. They've done it with so many movies. Little Mermaid, I'm pretty much expecting that movie will probably make a little bit just from the initial wave of people who see it, but once people see how terrible it is, I think it's going to flop the second week, and I think it's just not going to come anywhere close to being like a decent movie. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I'm just finishing off making the post. So.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Aladdin, the Aladdin guy is right? Do you think he's right that Little Mermaid's going to be a flop, or do you think that it's going to be completely defy expectations? I didn't like the fact that they race swapped Ariel, because let's face it, gingers, as at least like legitimate redheads, they are even more of a minority and far less represented than black people. So like already you're targeting a demographic that is very tiny. It wasn't that. Everything else about it is terrible. I don't know. If you guys think, I don't know if you guys think it's gonna be good. I'd be shocked if it was, but we'll see.
Yep.
Anyways, let's do the next one, which is something that was Timcast, but you're gonna be shocked at what this guy said.
Mm-hmm. It was
Take it away, Steve.
absolutely nuts.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is a video from a page called Gain of Fauci.
Gain of Fauci.
And so Gen Z for Change employee at Helia Gemry makes hilarious claim. Been a part of Gen Z for Change since 2019. We were called TikTok for Biden. We were nonpartisan. This is after Nuance Bro and other speakers exposed him on numerous topics. Great space. Here we go. Let's watch. Warning, NSFW. 100%. Just listen.
Jeremy, go ahead.
Thank you, Nuance. I just wanted to say that I've been part of Gen Z for Change since 2019. We were called TikTok for Biden. We were not partisan, but of course we encouraged Gen Z to, vote for the people that they felt, in their heart were right. The second thing that I wanted to say is we changed our name from TikTok for Biden to Gen Z for Change because we wanted to
because you were nonpartisan.
Dude, how is TikTok for Biden nonpartisan? That's crazy.
We're nonpartisan. We're nonpartisan.
Dude,
we
encourage
TikTok for Biden.
Are you
fucking kidding me right now, dude? Are you
that is the most amazing thing. Dude, honestly, Jeremy, out of everything you've said thus far, like denying the founding board members when I proved it to you, denying the investment when I proved it to you, you saying TikTok for Biden is nonpartisan, that takes the cake. That's incredible.
That takes some huevos.
Hey, Joel, can we get Matt Gaetz in here, please? This is just too good. He's got to get in here.
All right, so Joel, if you look at the Jumbotron and just scroll through, yeah, that's it's just hilarious.
How many Trump voters would you estimate work at Gen Z for Change?
Oh my God, Jonathan!
I'm just curious. Like, seriously.
How many Trump voters work for TikTok for Biden? That's
they're nonpartisan, Samira.
Well, a lot of them. It's nonpartisan.
I wonder where the actual comments are.
Yeah, this is okay. Hold on, because I was finding the real one, and then you posted this one. Come on, Danny.
I thought it would be it.
You should let me find the one that was proper.
Okay, go for it, kid.
It's okay. It's all right. I'll find it. Just
didn't have a chance to look at it. Basically, like the guy made some comments, some claims about BLM, like how many black people die in the United States per year that were so insanely.
Here it is.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.
Killed unarmed. No. You're telling me 13.2 million black people are getting shot and killed unarmed every year.
There's context to that. There's definitely context to those numbers.
Dude, you're fucking crazy, dude. That's like a fucking Holocaust. Dude, every black person would be dead in like fucking 3 years. Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. What are you saying?
Yet we're still dying.
Dude,
in record
you know what the actual answer
more
is?
than white.
Jeremy, do you know what the actual answer is? Because I actually have the real numbers. You've clearly never done this. I'm fucking mind blown right now, dude. The real number by Washington Post, keep tracks of this. Unarmed black people shot by police.
Wait for it.
Men and women.
Wait for it.
It's usually like 10 people, dude.
Yeah.
Like 10, maybe like 20 in a year. Sometimes it's like 8. You know, it fluctuates. It's like 7 to like 22, maybe.
Oh,
like,
man.
That's what it is.
Oh, man. Yep.
Not million. Like, that's just total. Do you believe that?
I'm going to have to do more research. If you send me the link, I'll look.
You were claiming like fucking, what was the number, Jonathan?
13 million of 44 million.
13.2 million. You said 30% of the entire black population. That is crazy.
Roughly, I actually believe
that is insane.
Like 20 to 30%.
Dude, legit, if Harry and Chris were in here even right now, they would be like, dude, what the fuck? We got to tell Elise to fire this guy. This guy's fucking nuts. Like, he's out of his fucking mind. He's smoking more crack than fucking Hunter Biden. Like, this is insane.
Dude, that's 2 Chicago's worth of black people.
Yeah.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. Like, they don't have enough bullets to fucking do that, probably.
Okay, is 15 to 20% fair then?
No.
No! Because
then it's
no,
it's not.
Do you know numbers? Like, what did you get in math class? What grades did you get? Like, I can't believe. Have you never talked to anybody about this issue?
Man.
Like, with numbers ever? I am like,
oh my god,
guys, people in the audience, can I get some reactions in here? Like, what are you guys thinking about this? Like, are you guys as shocked as I am? Like, this is insane. This is crazy. You don't even have to know about the crime issue at all to know what these claims are insane.
Nuts. Oh, they're just beyond insane. Yeah. So if you didn't catch it, the guy basically claimed that, like, was it 13 million black people are being killed every year in, like, like whatever violence against them. The guy literally has never sat down and thought about that. He's like, and then the guy's basically laid it out. He's like, if that was true, that would mean that that would be a genocide.
Million.
That would be a genocide in 3 years. In 3 years, all black people would be dead.
Complete genocide. Complete,
utter genocide. If that was actually happening, I guarantee you every American would be on the street, like, shouting, like, no, this is not, we're not having our own Holocaust here.
Would be the greatest travesty to ever affect the United States. If they were killing 13.5 million black people a year.
Bar none.
But, and then, of course, like, he tries to stick around and be like, at least like 15% to 20%. It's like, no, it's not.
That's like he's trying to go half. It was like, that's still like 6 million.
It's like, you are not understanding this one at all. But I will say, and like, so as a result of this, as a result of the absolute crushing that these guys give this kid, and like, I understand, like, this is what happens when you have someone who goes into a situation, goes into a conversation, completely unaware of the facts, completely unaware of the evidence. Anyone who's watched the pro-life debate that I did on the channel a long time ago knows that it was basically like this, where she came at me with the points, and I'm like, this is where you're wrong, this is where you're wrong, this is where you're wrong, this is where you're wrong. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, no. And then at the end of the debate, she's like, yeah, I guess I'm pro-life now. And I'm like, yeah, you are. So you knew nothing going into this debate. But, so his reaction, unfortunately, he had an anxiety attack, had a panic attack, did get booked into the ICU for it, spent some time in there, thankfully is all better. And we should give him some kudos. So props to at Hell Yeah Germany. Like, this is his Twitter statement. I think it's good for him to make it. Says, I made an arrogant comment about the rate of unarmed black men being shot by police in this country. I own that mistake, and I'm sorry, I was wrong. Fairly new to this stuff. When Nuance Bro started demanding for raw numbers, I thought all those videos I've seen of unarmed people in general, and I said 30% in the space. I mentioned I was referring to the entire country, which I was still wrong. I want to learn. I'm not a millennial or boomer. I'm young, and I push for policies I truly feel passionate about. That's the truth. My opinions are my own. And again, I own this mistake, so please stop doxing my relatives' phone numbers. It's not cool. It's not funny. Actually, very scary. Tim Cass mentioned he got swatted, so we must understand this. Show some grace. My friends and my opinions are completely separate. Leave them out of this. So, of course, like, cannot confirm or verify whether his relatives' phone numbers are actually being doxed. If true, then of course that's really bad. I have a little bit of skepticism towards that, just because of the relative rate of hate crime hoaxes.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't believe him, but I don't believe him. Like, straight up. I need some hard evidence for that. Leftists have a tendency, and I've seen this way too many times, where the second they get embarrassed or showing up in any kind of, like, forum, they immediately cry victim, and then they say, like, I'm being doxxed, I'm getting death threats, and it's like I very seldom do I actually see legitimate, like, evidence of that. They always do the same. Is their go-to thing. Like, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. So possibly, sure, maybe like 5% possibility. I'd be very shocked if that was actually the case. Anyways, this guy is a perfect example of the liberal mind virus, the leftist mind virus that's creating this cult. These are people who have never had to question their worldviews and are being fed complete absurdities and have never really stopped and thought, wow, this is like, that makes no sense. Like there's people in cults. Like I've encountered people in Jehovah's Witnesses, in Mormons, cults, and all that kind of stuff. There are some that are actually intelligent and they try to like come up with like an intelligent defense for their thing. Then there are some that like they don't realize how absurd their beliefs are, and they'll be like, "Yeah, it's just true. It's just true because like the Book of Mormon says it." I'm like, you're dumb. Like, come on. Like the it's sad because there's so many people like this.
Yep.
And if you watch how they operate in public, they basically say, don't talk to anybody who's outside of the cult.
Yep.
And so
that's exactly how, like, because the first host of this show, back when it had its former name, first host was a guy named Tate. He was a part of the JWs. And that's one of the first things they tell you. Do not trust anyone outside of the JWs. They are secretly, like, they may act a little bit nice, but if you get to know them, they're all hateful and evil, and they'll all try and take advantage and corrupt you.
Trying to drag you out of the cult.
And then eventually he realized that wasn't true. And then he's like, oh, you guys were like the nasty ones. So
yeah, information is toxic to cults.
Yes, it is.
And so that's why they love censorship.
Sunlight is the best medicine.
It's true. It's true.
But
all right, let's go to the next one.
Speaking of things that have been exposed by sunlight, let's talk about this Miller Lite ad.
Mm-hmm.
So the feminist ad from March goes viral amid Bud Light backlash. These companies are broken. So Miller Lite's pro-woman ad from March went viral on one day as conservative blasted the video as woke, with many drawing parallels to Bud Light's current marketing controversy. Miller Lite released a liberal ad campaign around the same time period that has recently gone viral for alienating beer drinkers. An ad celebrating Women's History Month, Miller Lite used comedian Ilana Glazer to condemn the bikini-laden women beer ads of the past. Centuries later, how did the industry pay homage to the founding mothers of beer? They put us in bikinis. So, yeah, this is the commercial. This is probably the uncensored version. I don't know whether there is a censored version or not, but
probably on.
It's probably okay if it's on Fox News. So here we go. Let's watch a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty dumb.
It's just dumb.
Here's a little known fact. Women were among the very first to brew beer ever. From Mesopotamia to the Middle Ages to colonial America, women were the ones doing the brewing. Centuries later, how did the industry pay homage to the founding mothers of beer? They put us in bikinis. Wow.
Put yourself in bikinis. I'm sorry.
Look at this wild. It's time beer made it up to women. So today, Miller Lite is on a mission to clean up not just their but the whole beer industry's Miller Lite has been scouring the internet for all this and buying it back so that they can turn it into good for women brewers. Literally, good How, you ask? Ladies, take it away.
First, we turn the bad into compost. Then we feed compost to worms. Push out beautiful fertilizer.
That good helps farmers grow quality hops,
which is then donated to women brewers to make their own really good
But there's definitely more out there. In your attic, in the garage, in your parents' basement. Send any you got into Miller Lite, and they'll turn that into good too. Oh. So here's to women, because without us, there would be no beer.
False.
That is such a lie.
Yep, no.
Such a freaking lie. My gosh. Okay. First of all, this came out before the whole
Dylan Mulvaney controversy.
Dylan Mulvaney. So that the Dylan Mulvaney boycott that started in April. This ad came out in March before it, and it basically they buried it. They're like, it's like they saw what was happening with Bud Light.
Mm-hmm.
Bury it, like memory hole it, like never let us see the light of day again.
Yeah.
So that's why it came out recently. Now
it was re-released.
Interesting thing about this ad. First of all, couple of complete and total lies. First of all, the idea that women were the first people to brew beer, garbage. Like there are verses in the Bible talking about Bible brewing. I'm like, no, it's not recent that happened. Second of all, most of the brewing in most countries all over was done by farmers. This is basically taking wheat and turning it into like, alcohol. That was done by farmers, and farmers were primarily men. So yes, there are examples of women throughout history that maybe like, had some part to play in like, in brewing beer. Sure. And you know what? If Miller Lite had actually made an ad saying, "Hey, we want to celebrate the lesser known stories of famous women of women who like, who brewed beer, and we want to recognize accomplishments," everybody would be like, yeah, absolutely. This is awesome. But Miller Lite decided to like put out an ad that basically craps all over men, accuses them of like basically trying to steal the thunder of women and basically turn them into sex objects. I'm
This is exactly like what happened with. You remember that like woke robot? I think it was like for Nickelodeon, and it was like, why are we always talking about Einstein when we should be talking about like such and such? Well, when we should be talking about so and so who invented the filament, and it's like, but he invented the filament, not the light bulb.
Oh, you're talking about not Einstein. Thomas Edison.
Well, Edison invented the light bulb, but there was like, Edison didn't invent the light bulb because he didn't invent the filament. But it's like, yeah, but he was the one who connected the filament, like the connection.
The one who basically made the light bulb
work.
Like an actual practical thing that can.
Yeah,
before
exactly.
that, they're just things that have no practical purpose or use.
And so this very woke thing was trying to teach kids to be like, oh no, Thomas Edison wasn't involved in the light bulb at all. It was this guy, and it's like, because we're not talking about this guy, then we're like demeaning black accomplishments. And it's like, well, no, we're just saying that the light bulb was a more important invention than the filament, because the filament was useful, yes, and his accomplishments should not be taken away. But the light bulb actually did change millions of people's lives.
Absolutely.
And so, but what they're saying in this commercial is not only lying about the invention of beer, but then they're going into this immense double standard about sexuality in modern society. So they're saying it's like
called misandry, Stephen.
Well, it's called misandry. Ooh, yes.
Which is basically like they hate men. That's
Well,
pretty
yeah,
much what it
they
really
do.
comes down to.
They're just like, oh man, like men are terrible,
Yeah.
and that they are attracted to the female form when it's in a bikini. It's like, well,
how
yes,
dare they?
Like, don't like it. Like, it's, well, okay, I'm not saying that I don't like being attracted to the female form. I'm not.
I mean, they are pretty.
They're pretty.
Yeah,
I get
very
it.
pretty.
But yes, like there is a level where it's like, okay, this is scantily clad. This is inappropriate. We don't want to be focusing on this because we want to try and focus on decency, civility, and bringing back traditional values and traditional roles. I talked to my coworker about this because right now at the university, they're having this volleyball competition, and volleyball girls nowadays wear really, really tight booty shorts.
And also sports bras that are basically covering nothing.
They're not allowed to wear that during the competition right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're just walking around in booty shorts for the past few days. So my coworker's been like, dang. And I'm like, focus. Decency. And I'm like, didn't you just say you wanted a woman of like morality? And he's like, this is true. And I'm like, see. And I'm like, this is when the old adage, lady in the streets and freak in the sheets, is important. Because you want a woman that presents herself and has decency and morals, but then when you actually make a commitment and have long-term vows in a relationship, then yeah, you want that too. Like, people talk about like modern Christianity and modern religion and be like, oh, you guys are such prude. Are you kidding me right now? No.
This commercial is as prude as it comes.
Well, like this commercial is prude, but then going back to it, they'll say, oh no, it's wrong for men to objectify women in saying that we're putting women in bikinis. But it's okay for women to go into prostitution, for them to go into porn, for all to go into these sex. Oh, that's empowering. And it's like, well, it does not make sense for it to be empowering when it comes to prostitution, when it comes to sex, when it comes to porn. But it's patriarchy and sexist when they're in bikinis.
Okay,
it's
so
a blatant double standard.
To illustrate that point, go to the next video, the next part, the YouTube video. But I wanted you to do something for me. I want you to go to the when you're ready, I'll show you. Just before the part that I showed you, I think it's we're at the 450. Is that like there's a part where like he shows that the woman. Oh no, maybe it is where I started. where shows that the woman herself is basically like has so many things on her Instagram where she basically has.
Anyway, I digress.
Go to the 316 mark.
The person who would sign off on this campaign would be millions of photos of her in a bikini for attention. Yep. Got it? Here's her in publicity shots in bikinis. Here's her on her show in bikinis. Making sexual jokes, making sexual like again, it's so fraudulent, it's so embarrassing. Miller Lite apologizes for using women in bikinis to sell beer. It's so fraudulent, it's so embarrassing. They're getting ratioed into infinity for this. 20,000 dislikes, 1,000 likes on this ad. They haven't turned off the comments yet. We'll see. I am shocked this is still up. But there is something that isn't up anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It is the people who actually made the decision to publish this ad. The individuals behind the ad have been systematically deleting their social media and their LinkedIn accounts. Uh-oh. Yes, indeed. Miss Strong woman, strong executives inside of the Miller brand have been nuking their accounts out of shame for this advertising campaign. It's time beer made it up to women. Miller Lite apologizes for using women in bikinis to sell beer. So who was making these decisions? Well, first and foremost, you have Sophia Colucci. Sophia Colucci is the chief marketing officer for Molson Coors. So if they're going to hire a non-funny anti-comedian and pay her presumably big fat royalty check for this ad featuring wooden barrels. This is not what a brewery looks like, you idiots. Featuring wood.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. My buddy pointed that out to me. He's like, why do they have whiskey barrels? Trying to, let's say, like the women are making beer. I'm like, that itself is a humongous I'm like, yeah, that's whiskey barrels. Those are not like, that's not how you make beer. Yeah, dummy. So he didn't get that right. But here's an important thing is that, like not only is that comedian, but also like several like sects, like of course these are.
They've deleted their social media accounts.
They all deleted and scrubbed their social media accounts because
run away from controversy.
It is crazy. It is crazy how bad they are. Like most of these companies are not doing it for like the whole idea of marketing to your base. It's literally imploded. They don't do that anymore. They don't even try to advertise to their actual customer base. They're basically all indoctrination. Companies. They're basically getting paid untold numbers of money by big investment firms like BlackRock and all these other ones. Basically, to do one thing is we want you to push this down people's throats until they say yes, please. Yes, another slice piece.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So that's the reality.
All about money making, right?
Miller Lite we'll see what happens, but I don't know.
All right, well. Talk about more insanity. So Manitoba Tories oppose ban on sexual and gender identity literature in school libraries. The delegation member said the material is akin to child porn. Manitoba Library Association is concerned about intellectual freedom, following several requests to remove books on sexual and gender identity from school bookshelves. The delegation has falsely equated to as LGBTQIA+ materials selected for school libraries as pedophilia and grooming, according to the nonprofit MLA. In addition to condemning these attempts at censorship, MLA condemns the discriminatory characterization behind these calls for censorship. It continues, we consider this an affront to our professional values of intellectual freedom and of equity, diversity, and inclusion alike. On March 14th, a delegation asked Winkler City Council to stop funding the South Central Regional Library until they remove books on sexuality and LGBTQ issues from libraries that are easily accessible to minors. One of the delegation members said the material is akin to child porn.
No, it's not akin to child porn. It is child porn. It is child porn. Like Tim Pool has in studio, I think he always has it there, Genderqueer, which is one of the controversial books that is always at the center of these kind of things. And Genderqueer, I've only seen images, and I've only seen
we've only seen images, and the images we cannot show.
Like I myself am an adult, and I even find the images in there.
They're disturbing.
Truly disturbing. They're downright. They're BDSM style, like really dark, like almost like gross. sexual conduct and all that. So here's what's happening. Let me just like whittle it down for you. What's happening? There's people, and again, this is the Maude and Bailey approach. They put these like child porn comic books or books or whatever into like school libraries or in basically accessible to children, and these are prepubescent children. Then they justify it saying like, oh, you're trying to ban books, or oh, it's about intellectual freedom. I'm like, no. If somebody comes into a school with elementary age children and puts Hustler magazines on the shelf or Playboy magazines on the shelf, I'm going to have a bit of a problem with that. It's like, oh, well, it's about freedom of speech and like intellectual freedom. I'm like, no, you're basically putting pornography in children's hands. Like, people don't argue that, but somehow they're trying to say, well, it's okay because it's LGBT pornography. That's basically what they're saying. It's like, well, pornography is bad, but not if it's LGBT, because the LGBT part is the thing that makes it acceptable. That's basically what these people at the Library Association and all these like rumors are basically doing. They're basically trying to like justify putting child pornography in schools. It's not like akin to child pornography. They are freaking child pornography. It's crazy. No ban book. # no ban. Oh my gosh. These people are such liars. And they're if leftists were Pinocchio, like there would not be places that they could go into.
It would touch the sun.
Their noses would be so freaking long. These are absolutely pathological liars. It's so gross.
Okay, so we're going to cover a few more Canadian stories very quickly.
And
so first off, former CSIS officer says Chinese agents have compromised federal government. Well, Nadoy. May 11th, a former officer with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service testified before a Commons Committee on the need for jail time if elected officials and bureaucrats are caught cooperating with foreign powers. Because we're close to treason here, Michelle Junot Katsuya, former chief of the Asia-Pacific unit within CSIS, told MPs. As part of its study on foreign interference, the Commons Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs heard several recommendations from the former CSIS officer, who criticized his former employer in the RCMP for failing to tackle the threat. Well, they're failing to tackle the threat because the majority of the problems are with the Liberals, and so the RCMP look the other way. That's pretty much it. It's just a massive problem with the way the RCMP, but talking about crime here in Canada, we'll also showcase a little bit of this video from Pierre Poilievre. Basically, probably just the first minute. He smacks him down hard.
It's really good.
The crime has already happened, or the alleged crime has already happened. So, how can you attribute bail to this increase in crime, and not? Should there not be more supportive measures to prevent the crime in the first place?
We're not Minority Report. People.
You're talking about someone being on bail. They've already allegedly committed the crime. So
they're committing crimes on bail. That's the problem. The problem is, I'll give you an example. In Vancouver, the same 40 offenders were arrested 6,000 times in a year. That's 150 arrests per offender per year. Why? Because they're arrested in the morning, then they're released on bail by noon, they reoffend, they're back in jail by 2 in the afternoon, and then they're released by the evening so that they can commit their final crime before they go to bed.
It's a failure of the system to not support people who have committed crimes, gone to jail, served their sentence, and then they're committing another crime. So is this not a failure of things like social services and support for people who have committed crimes?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm asking
you. Are you serious?
Yes.
No. Come on. You're telling me... No, excuse me. Let me answer your question.
Shut up.
Are you honestly saying that it's society's fault if a repeat violent offender commits 60 or 70 offenses? I think that criminal is to blame for his own actions.
Yes.
He is personally responsible.
Yeah.
We're not talking about some kid who made one mistake when he was 19. We're talking about people who do 60, 70 violent offenses. And then they're because they're criminals.
But why are they?
Because they're criminals.
Because they do crime.
And why do they do crime?
Because we let them out early on bail.
Yes.
Why do they do
Amen,
crime?
Pierre.
Because we allow them to,
Let 'em-
dummy.
Yeah, dummy. This is so perfect. This is
Like
exactly
like Pierre Poilievre is so he's so quaint and so polite about it, but at some point you just want to scream at the guy and be like, do you have an IQ of 10?
Yeah, pretty much. This is the kind of mindset that creates the situation that you see in New York, and what led to Daniel Penny basically having to resort to taking matters into his own hands. That's the kind of thinking, because every like liberal nut job, like the leftist lunatics that are crying out saying that Jordan Neely is a victim, every single one of them is basically defending crime and criminals. And by the way, Justin Trudeau is a criminal apologist. He all of his policies, all of his laws that he passes are meant to go easier on criminals, and they're designed to make life easier for criminals and for them to be able to reoffend more easily. This is how you create, how do you create a society that eats itself? That's how you do it. And that reporter right there basically showed you what's wrong with this country. It's people like that that have this completely like nonsensical worldview that a criminal is never
at
ever
fault.
At fault. But by the way, quick question for you, Stephen, is are there criminals that cannot be rehabilitated?
Yes.
Do they exist? Yes.
Yep.
In their view, there's no such thing.
This is why, like, when one of the major moves that Trudeau, in terms of criminal justice from here in Canada, one of the major moves that the Trudeau government did was that they made it unconstitutional for you to put multiple life sentences on a person no matter what their crime is. So if you're a serial killer and you kill 15, 20 people, the max punishment you can receive in a Canadian prison is 25 years. No matter how many people you kill. It's like, well, what does that do? All that's going to do is it's going to encourage more crime and more crime and more crime because, oh, I've committed this one. I'm already going to get 25 years. What's the difference with committing a bunch more? Because it doesn't matter and doesn't impact my jail sentence. And it is terrifying that someone who can commit 10 murders will be out on the street in 25 years, whereas in the States, they would never see the light of day again. Now, I'm not saying the United States justice system is perfect. We've seen the problems as far as like
it's better than
Trumps,
Canada's,
but it is light years better than Canada's because Canada's is meant to release these people. In the United States, yes, there are people who will be released in the woke cities and the Democrat-run blue states, which are on fire. But here in Canada, it's the entire bloody country.
Yeah, and that's the kind of things that
upside down flag for a reason.
Here's and just the last thing on that. Here's what that reporter was doing. He was completely conflating two different categories. There's two categories. One is how to prevent crime. Two is how to address crime. One is a justice category. So how do you like deal with criminality? The second one is more of a like sociological category. That's what do we do to basically help people to basically get their lives together, and how to like help them prevent suicide, prevent all this kind of stuff. It's all about prevention. The other one is justice, and he's conflating justice with compassion programs, and that's the problem. Like in the woke mindset, criminals are never responsible for their crimes, and that is a recipe for an absolutely destructive and horrible. And by the way, if you have like a loved one who was raped, and you hear about some of the like the slap on the wrist kind of like punishment for rapists, like you would be horrified, because like there's no society where a dangerous, violent rapist or murderer should ever see the light of day again. Actually, in a truly just society, those kind of crimes would come with the death sentence, especially for violent murders and violent serial rapists. They should not see the light of day ever again. But that's our country. Anyways, move on to the last ones.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So final story is about our home province of Alberta.
Alberta.
So Why does the Alberta NDP want drug addicts to suffer? In a baffling campaign move, the Alberta NDP has come out against it. Involuntary drug addiction treatment. The NDP did this just to be contrarian to the UCP, mused about potentially pursuing involuntary treatment options in the future. The NDP is basically declaring they would rather a drug addict die on the streets than have the government force them into rehab.
Mm-hmm.
It's an odd position, not only because of the moral senselessness, but also because the BC NDP government is in favor of passing mandatory rehab policies. Premier David Eby will be further to the left than the Alberta NDP leader Rachel Notley, but even he stated about involuntary rehab: when someone overdoses twice a day, they show up in the emergency room for the second time, a second overdose in the same day. The idea to release that person back into the street to overdose the third time and to die, or to have profound brain injury just to come back into the ER room again, seems very bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Currently under a system, the intervention can only come once they've been seriously brain injured. Through an overdose, we need to have better interventions that could include and should include involuntary care for people to make sure they at least have a chance. I worked briefly in the hospital, and yeah, there was a couple people who had massive brain injuries because they had overdosed again and again and again, and one guy could only basically communicate in grunts. And this guy was, he had an amazing physique. Like, he had spent a lot of time at the gym, like, toning his body, but his brain was so warped because of the overdoses that all he could do was communicate in grunts. And if he started, like, if he wanted something and he got very insistent, like, you could not fight him off.
Yeah.
He would hold on to you, and there was a few times that I had to, like, pry off his fingers one at a time because he would hold on to the female nurse's hand and she could not get away.
Yeah. It's tragic because what happens is, and I've watched like all sorts of documentaries and a lot of different series. Liberal cities all over like North America, from San Francisco, LA, they always try to like frame this as a homelessness issue. But anybody who works for street people can tell you that is actually probably the least likely cause of their problem. These are people who are on the streets for a plethora of reasons. They can be under like serious drug addiction. They could have mental health issues. They could have like all sorts of depression. They could have all sorts of like just like they fall into all sorts of destructive patterns and all that kind of stuff. The goal should not be to help them to destroy themselves. The goal should be to help lift them out of the horrible, catastrophic situation that they're in. That's why when I heard somebody like say that Calgary has safe injection zones, like I'm like, what you're basically doing is you're basically having like a place, like imagine like having an like people who are alcoholics, who are basically destroying themselves, and be like, hey, here, Uncle Jim, here's another like, five bottles of whiskey or something like that. Have fun.
Yeah.
Like, why'd you give him that? It's like, well, I'd rather he get it from me than from some like, like seedy place, like, like you're helping him destroy himself. You think that that's compassionate because you're helping them? So the whole logic of safe injection sites is that, well, if we don't do that, they might die from infections or whatever else and all that. I'm like, so you're basically helping prolong how long they're going to like live in the suffering rather than them dying quickly. That's basically the logic behind that. It's not compassionate in any means. But by the way, the Alberta UCP is really showing why the giant gulf of difference between them and the NDP. The NDP is they're basically communists in a nice colored brightly colored orange. That's basically what they are. They're dark red, but they hide it with their like bright orange kind of like coloring and all that. It's amazing to me that people don't see past the NDP's complete sheep in wolf's clothing. Oh, sorry, wolf in sheep's clothing, kind of like facade. And all. But one thing that was really encouraging to me, and of course this is not in any way official, but it at least seems to kind of correlate with a lot of other things I've been hearing on. And that was this post from Dave Alberta, which I've heard from other places. Essentially, somebody who's a political strategist and does a little bit of predictions, or like a little bit of predictions of the upcoming elections, who's been right in the past, she's basically predicting that the support for the UCP, the Conservatives here in Alberta, or at least in Calgary, is 51%. And for the NDP, is just below 40%. I don't know if you can pull that up really quick, Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I'm not sure what this person's name is, Brown, but it sounds like they're predicting that Calgary's going to go UCP, and if that's the case,
it's over.
That means that's over, because this is the battleground. My city is battleground Alberta, and we basically stand on the brink. If the NDP win, then we're basically, the province is going to go full California, and good luck if like 4 years of like the NDP government on steroids, like we're going to be spending decades. The UCP, they're not great. I don't think that they do everything perfectly. I think Daniel Smith is way better than Jason Kenney ever was.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a world. This is like a classic example of the lesser of two evils, and UCP is by far the lesser of two evils right now.
100%. Yep. So we will be. Actually, I think the next time that we have in 2 weeks, it'll be on the 30th. So I believe election night is actually going to be our next show.
Yeah.
Because we will not have... So, just a quick update. Next Tuesday, we will not have a show. Oh, no, next Thursday we will not have a show, because I am going away camping on the long weekend, and we're packing and basically just making sure everything is good to go for Friday morning. So we'll be getting my in-laws van, and we'll have to load it up because we're not receiving it until like 7 p.m. and then we have to leave at like 7 a.m. the next morning. So got to do all that stuff. Got to have everything ready to go. And then, so we will have a show on Tuesday, which will be hold on, there's another week in there. Sorry. I'm missing a week.
Let's go with tomorrow. Like Thursday, we won't have a show, and then we'll...
Yeah.
Do we have a show on Tuesday?
Yes, the 22nd.
Yeah, we'll just update it from there.
Yeah. So, and then, because it's the next Tuesday after that, which is the 29th, which is election day. And we will be purposely live on the 29th to kind of do a show and cover the election live. So we'll see how that goes. And then next Thursday, which will be the last Thursday in May, we're going to try and we'll keep people informed. We will try and do a Twitter Spaces, just like we saw in that other video earlier today. And so we'll just leave the invite open. If you wish to participate, come on over. We'll have an open discussion about the stuff that's going on that day. People can come and go. You can discuss what you want. And then we'll see what happens.
By the way, quick question for you, Stephen. I think Elizabeth Bessa asked this earlier on, but we didn't get a chance. Did you did an interview with Kevin J. Johnson?
Yes, I did.
Way back, didn't you?
And I did one back in. I did one back in. I think it was probably March of 2021.
That's when he was running for mayor.
Yes, when he was running for mayor, I did an interview with him. Unfortunately, I did not keep the video.
Yeah,
and this is before I swapped computers. So since that time, I've gone through 2 computer changes.
Yes.
So now I have more storage. Now I keep all my local files. Now I have access to all of that stuff. So it's no longer an issue. But back then, I just didn't believe that YouTube would delete my account.
Yeah,
I was foolish.
You were like, whimsical.
I was whimsical.
Yeah, you were.
And so
when you told me, you were like so shocked. You're like, they deleted my channel. I'm like, dude, of course they did. Like, but I'm awesome. I'm like, dude, I told you this. Like, I knew there were.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a thing. By the way, quick thing. How was that interview with Kevin J?
It was very interesting. Like we had, we talked about his book. We talked about like Calgary versus Mississauga, Toronto politics. Talked about his plans as mayor. Went on for about an hour. We had a great little chat. And like the policies that we wanted, that he was talking about introducing to Calgary, were really good.
Yeah.
But here in Calgary, and I've said this before as far as Alberta politics as well, ranked ballots are the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because ranked ballots, you know what support truly is for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there were ranked ballots, I would hazard a guess that Kevin would probably receive closer to like 20,000 instead of 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas he only saw 1,000 because nobody saw him as a viable candidate. And then again, if we had ranked ballots, I have no doubt in my mind that Farkas would have won. No doubt.
I agree.
Because Gondek would have gotten the supporters from the third candidate, but Farkas would have gotten almost everybody else.
Yeah, I agree.
But there were questions about the Calgary mayoral election about why the polls were like 20% off.
Yeah.
So questions that we will never have answered because Calgary is woke and never challenges these things. That being said,
and did you were you able to confirm? I still need to look into this. Are they doing the same thing like with the Dominion style, like, you know, tabulated things for the election here?
I have no idea.
If they are, I'm gonna be like, suspect. Just so you know, I don't trust those things. I
of course not.
I like paper ballots.
Yes,
we'll see.
Yeah. So far, they have only had, like, there was only the mayoral election that had the scanner.
Yeah.
So
and
we'll see.
It was very, very suspect. I remember some of the things that they did.
Yeah.
Even when we went, I was like, "Whoa, okay, that seems odd how they're
questionable.
doing this."
Yep.
Yeah, very questionable. So,
anyways, so this is where we're gonna end today's show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you have been participating in the live stream, which of course lately has been mainly Lisabella, Conquerworm is a Karen.
No, he's as conservative as they come. He's just trolling for fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Conquerworm he's been a long time viewer and he's a good friend of ours.
He's super solid. I love that guy.
Yeah. No. So
he's the reason I have this mic.
Yes. He is. My dad is the reason I have this mic, but for an entirely different reason.
That's right. It's right.
Because he bought this mic. Okay, like, it was a funny story for this one because he's like, yes, like, the church is doing like concerts and I need a microphone to record my trombone because using my phone's microphone was trash. And he's like, so find a microphone for this price and I'll send you the money. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I buy one, like, get it all set up, show him how to operate it. And he's like, all right, I'll let you know when I need it for doing concerts and recordings. And he never used it.
Never,
not once, because they stopped doing performances until they met up in person. Because the tech guy was like, never again, because he had to compile like 300 separate video clips.
And
it took him like, and this was all volunteer.
Yep.
And I think they said it took him like 50 hours to compile a 3-minute video.
Not even close to doable.
And it's like, do not even think of doing this again. So I was like, okay, well, I got a free microphone and Daddy got a free microphone. So it's just like, it worked out.
I'm pretty happy with it. You know, my voice sounds amazing.
It does sound, well, yeah. Like, we don't have this $500, $600 Shure mics, but ours they're B tier and they're still pretty good.
They sound pretty good. Yeah, I like it.
So anyways, so yeah, there won't be a show on Thursday unless Danny wants to do something, but unlikely considering that
I don't have the
tech,
technology or the power to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, the power.
I might be able to pull off like maybe like a
small recording. Yeah.
I could probably do that.
But yeah, you definitely will not be able to live stream.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
So,
but thanks, man. It was good.
Yep.
And
we'll see everybody on Tuesday, and it seems as though like Restream wants us to live stream on Twitch and Twitter, so that's just what we're going to continue doing Tuesdays and Thursdays from now on, because that's the only way that we can put our videos on Twitter.
To be fair, our Twitch Tuesdays are actually like more.
Yeah,
more
last
popular.
week and today they've been more popular. Thursday got like nothing.
Yeah, we got like no anything, like no conversation.
Yeah, there was no conversation at all. But last Tuesday was good. Today was good.
Yeah.
We'll see. Apparently Tuesday is a good day for live streaming, so
Amen.
we'll keep going. Yes.
Anyways,
Good.
by the way,
good night. Liz
by the way,
Beza.
shout out to Liza Bella. Who fun to
Yeah, very fun
chat with.
interacting.
Yeah.
So have a great night, everybody. And yeah, we'll see you on Tuesday. And as always, oh yes, I signed us out.
Yeah,
I forgot to.
I was gonna say, I'm like, you're not doing it right, bro. You're
Sorry.
not doing it right.
Yep. So here at the Shrewd Dudes, we'd like to remind you, why be rude when you can be shrewd. Have a great night, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday. And as always, God bless.